Hey everyone, what's going on? Today we have the tier list for patch 16.5. There were actually a ton of changes. The biggest change going to be that T-Hex is back for sure now. They've been trying to buff T-Hex for a while now, and right now I think it might be an over buff. He's absolutely dominating every single game, and there are a couple of ways to play him. We'll be covering that along with all the other comps that you see right in front of you right now, but let's go over the summary first. Another comp that's really good, and I talked about this in my patch preview a few days ago, is Double Trouble. Extremely good. It works with a lot of different comps, but especially Malzahar. It's going to be dominating in a lot of games. If you ever get offered that augment, just take it right away and don't look back. I'll be coming out with an opener guide similar to last patch in just a couple of days, so that'll cover all the augments and stuff that are just auto clicks. Next up we have are the A tiers. We have Bel'Veth Slayers, still solid. Kalista is still good. Ixtal Fast 9 and Ixtal Bard. These comps got nerfed a little bit, but they still are very good Giga win-out comps. Shadow Out Kalista is solid. AD Fast 9, if you get the right start for it, is good. Noxus, this is like probably one of the best beginner comps, I think, right now. If and only if you get like an even mediocre start with it, it just steamrolls everything in the early to mid game. Bel'Veth Slayers with Gangplank, also pretty solid. Veigar Yordles, they're going to be changing this in the next patch, but right now it's still very good. It's just a little tricky to play because you need a lot of Rabadon death caps in order to unlock the Veigar. But after that, we finish off the A tier with Yunara Flex. Still solid right now. Definitely is a lot weaker, but if you built Rageblade and you need something to play, it's always there for you. And then in the B tier, Bilgewater, Demacia, these comps just not as powerful as everything else. Freljord, Seraphine, Ekko Reroll, Sona Reroll, Ryze, Ziggs, Warwick Flex. I actually thought Warwick Flex would be a bit better, but I think it's because melee carries are struggling a little bit right now because T-Hex just eats everything up. Bel'Veth doesn't really count as a melee carry because she is 2 range instead of 1 range, but if you're in the front row, you have to be very careful about being blown up by T-Hex because they increase the damage on T-Hex by a lot. But let's go into how to play each and every one of these comps. Let's start off with the T-Hex build. This is one we're probably going to spend more time on, but there are a couple of ways to do this. You want to do Caitlyn reroll in most cases. It's not mandatory, but if you ever get any semblance of a few Caitlyns out there, definitely go for it. And then if you get any reroll augments, it's going to help out a lot. But essentially, once you reach the star level requirement to get T-Hex, which is 9 star levels of Piltover, you just stabilize so hard. And like one thing you need to do in the early game is unlock Orianna by fielding a Piltover unit with some items, and then it'll just make your rerolls in the early game a lot better because you're going to be rolling for Caitlyn, but if you get Vi and Orianna as well, it's going to just help stabilize you a little bit more in the early game. But once you get 3-star Caitlyn, 2-star Vi, 2-star Orianna, you're at 7. So you just need Loris and Seraphine, 1-star or a 2-star Loris. Then you get your T-Hex. You generally want to unlock T-Hex by stage 4-1, around there. And then you just play 6 Piltover, milk it a bit, and then eventually in the late game, you want to drop down to like 4 or even 2 Piltover. Also, if you do get any of the reroll augments, playing Bard in the early game is a pretty good option to do. He just gets you a lot of rerolls in order to kind of guarantee getting Caitlyn, and also just gets you econ in general. And then after that, you want to focus on your T-Hex items. There are a couple of different ways to build T-Hex. The one you see here is pretty standard: Infinity Edge, Deathblade, and Guardbreaker. The most flexible item here, I'd say, would be the Deathblade. This can either be a blue buff or a Giant Slayer. But pretty much, IE is mandatory. Then second best item is Guardbreaker, even though it's not mandatory. I'd say it's like the second best. And then any mixture of Deathblade, Blue Buff, and Giant Slayer is going to round out your T-Hex build. After that, tank items on Braum, and then you focus on items for Lucian and Senna, and then your second T-Hex. What you can do is, when you get your second T-Hex, you just remove all the items you have on Lucian and Senna and put it on your second T-Hex. It's honestly going to give you a lot more value, but in case you don't get that, you always have your Lucian and Senna to use whatever you have, which honestly, like, they use the same items. T-Hex is just pure damage, so Lucian and Senna also pure damage. You can use anti-heal, you can use AD, you can use blue buff. All of them work on Lucian and Senna. And for your second T-Hex, it's like good enough. Like, you can't handpick those items, you know? But another thing to keep note, though, is you do want to try to trim down to 4 Piltover in the late game. The way to do that is to get rid of Vi, Orianna, or Caitlyn. It really kind of depends on what you're hitting or what you have upgraded. Like, if you have a 1-star Seraphine, you might want to drop her instead. But pretty much what you do is you play stuff like Zilean. Zilean works really well because you get Invoker with Orianna. Azir can work if you have the Seraphine. And then you could also play stuff like Ornn to get more Wardens, or any of the Shurima units that you get from Azir. That's pretty much all you gotta do. Worst case, you play something like Fiddlesticks, Shyvana, stuff like that. if you happen to get them. But obviously, like the 6 Piltover build is still very viable. I'm just talking about like the super late game where you kind of want to drop down a little bit. So do not just hard force like 4 Piltover from the start. First of all, I don't even know how you're going to get the T-Hex if you do that. Second of all, you still want to farm with the 6 Piltover buff because it's pretty good in the mid game. So do not just hard force 4 Piltover. Speaking of things to not do not bring up your stance on circumcision in front of a Christian girl because that really messed things up for me. I know people were asking about more dating tips from the previous tier list video. That's going to be the tip of the week for this one because yeah, in fact, they don't even have to be Christian. Like they could be other religions too, but like even if they're not religious, apparently this is like one of the most contentious topics. And I honestly had no idea until maybe like a year ago and then again 3 months ago. Don't worry, I didn't make the same mistake twice, but someone else was telling me about this thing too. Apparently, they're at some like get together and they played this game. It's like Split the Room or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was. And like apparently this topic came up and it perfectly split the room and you could kind of guess who is on which side. And I don't know why this is such a big deal, but I guess it is. I'm not going to try to think too much about it, but that's my tip of the week. Next build up we have is Double Trouble, Malzahar, and Nautilus. Malzahar is really, really good. Double Trouble is really, really good. I'm pretty sure there are other Double Trouble comps out there because 3 cost and 2 cost reroll, I think they definitely are a bit more viable. They got buffed up a little bit, 3 costs especially. And Malzahar, he really does slap hard, especially with this double Nasher Jeweled Gauntlet build. I know they nerfed Nashers recently, but this is still the best build on Malzahar by far. Like, I've looked at other combinations. They don't look as good both in game and in the data. So you pretty much just copy this build perfectly. You just need 2 bows, 2 belts, a glove, and a rod. Tank items on Nautilus don't matter, and then ideally you have some sort of anti-heal on your team and Void Staff. So it is a little tricky. You do need 3 bows in this comp, which does suck because bow is a pretty hard item to get sometimes. I think in this set, it's probably the most contested item. In fact, in most sets it is. So worst case, if you don't get 3 of them, still build the double Nasher's Tooth, but instead of the Void Staff, you could build something like an Ionic Spark. Like, it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world either. But this build is just 2 Malzahars, 2 Nautilus, 2 Loris, and then the other 2 units don't really matter. You could do like Cho'Gath Seraphine. You definitely do want a Disruptor though, and Seraphine kind of matches that up perfectly. And then Cho'Gath is there because it gives you Void and Juggernaut. So that's why it's really important to do it that way. They pretty much just fill out the traits that you just need for your comp. So keep in mind, you want to get Double Trouble. So what are your other augments that you want for this comp? Well, you could do Pandora's items because as I said before, you need like very specific components. You want lots of bows, lots of rods. But another thing you could do is just focus on getting reroll augments because anything that gives you more rolls, more champion duplicators, like the lesser duplicators, the faster it is you're going to hit your Double Trouble power spike, which is getting a 3-star and then getting the additional copy of the 2-star. And then you just pretty much get a free game. Like, obviously, the cap outs are higher if you go, like, combat augments or whatever, but you should probably be doing everything in your power to get 3-star of whatever you want, and you want multiple 3-stars. So that's why getting Double Trouble plus a reroll augment is going to be the way to go. After that, for stage 4, I personally like combat augments. You don't really need item augments that badly. Like, if you get 3-item Nautilus, 3-item Malzahar, like, you will get the utilities later on eventually. Like, you don't need to, like, absolutely get extra items, because sometimes when you play a comp, you run multiple carries, in which case you do want a lot of items. But in this comp here, you really just care about 2 units, so that's why you don't really need item augments. Like, the only one you care about, again, is Pandora's, just because it helps you get everything you want. But very simple comp to play. You just do 3-cost reroll, go to level 7, roll down, stabilize, and then slow roll until you almost get Malzahar 3-star, and then go hard, and then finish him off, and then get 3-star Malzahar, get the second copy, and then you are going to be good to go. Work on Nautilus next. And then Loris is kind of optional. Like, you don't have enough items to go around everywhere because you do need the utility in the backline. But if you had like Sunfire Cape, Ionic Spark on Loris, that would work just fine too. But let's go on into the next build, which is going to be the A tiers. This is going to be Ambessa, Bel'Veth, and Slayers. So this is still a solid comp. I think Bel'Veth got nerfed slightly. Aatrox got buffed a little bit. You really want to build healing items on Aatrox. Aatrox is just buffed up so that when you do get healing on him, he gets other benefits as well. So he just uses like Bloodthirster, Hand of Justice, Hextech Gunblade really, really well compared to any other unit. So just stack him up with that. you need it anyways to try to help unlock him. But after you get the 2 healing items to unlock Aatrox, and you could do it with 1, you just need to play 6 Slayer. I do go over all the ways to do it down here. BunnyMuffins.lol/meta for that, where we have the full write-ups for literally everything you need to know about the comp. But after you build those 2 healing items, you want to focus on Bel'Veth items. Bel'Veth uses weird items, like Quicksilver's really good, Kraken's pretty good, Giant Slayer's pretty good. Pretty much all the attack speed items are good on her. Also, if you ever get a Rod in this comp, just build a Rage Blade. Bel'Veth can use it too. Rod doesn't really build anything good in this comp, so you just use it on that. And then lastly, you need to get some tank items for your Rift Herald. Rift Herald is really good because he could hold all your utilities. Even Shroud plus Sunfire Cape, absolutely mandatory for this comp. I guess worst case, you could build like a Morello Namicon on Fiddlesticks or like a Last Whisper on Bel'Veth, but it really does help if you have the Even Shroud and the Sunfire Cape. Also, like when you get belts and Negatrons and chains, like you don't really need them for that many other things, especially the belts. Like, yeah, you need a Negatron for Bloodthirster. Yeah, you might need a chain for Titan's Resolve, but like Titan's Resolve isn't mandatory, so you want to save that for Sunfire Cape. BT, you could build like Handed Justices instead, so just make sure you do have the Even Shroud when you do have a belt. Just because if you ever play this comp without Armor Shred, you are just asking for going 8th. But other ways to like really make this comp work is to go for like Darkened Bow. Like Darkened Bow is really, really good. Probably the best one. They did buff Darkened Staff recently. Like I guess you could put it on Fiddlesticks. It probably is going to be pretty good. I haven't tried it yet personally, but they did buff it by quite a decent amount. And this build definitely uses it pretty well because you're obviously playing Aatrox. But pretty much all this build is you need Void early to farm up for Rift Herald. Not like super early, but you need him eventually. I'd say by stage maybe like 2-5, you want to have 2 Void in at least. Ideally 2-3 or earlier, just so that when you do your level 8 roll down, you can get the Rift Herald along with the Bel'Veth at the same time, and the Ambessa. So anything after that, you might want to look for a different comp. But this comp is really easy to play because you have 3 strong units to play in the early game. You have Kiana, Briar, and Rek'Sai. All 3 of those units just help you steamroll the early game. They work really well with BT and all the melee bruiser items. But I've been saying this for like a few patches already. Those units just absolutely steamroll the early game. Melee carries in general are just really good in the early game because they act as both a tank and a damage dealer. So that's why it works out that way. But they do fall off, and in those cases, you need to keep upgrading them and upgrading them and upgrading them, which is why you do eventually need the board that you saw before. But let's go on into the next comp. We have the Void Kaisa comp. Kaisa is still good. It's pretty much the same build as before. You want to do the 4 Void, 4 Juggernaut build. This build spikes really, really hard in the mid game because if you ever lose streak in the early game, let's say you took an Econ Augment early and then you just like lose streak a little bit. I'm not saying perfect lose streak either. I'm just saying like regular lose streak. It helps you unlock Singe. So if you're playing a bunch of Zon units and a bunch of Juggernauts, you get them unlocked automatically. If you're playing 2 Voids since the early game, you get Rift Herald automatically. And then if you hit level 7, you pretty much get Kaisa automatically because you're just going to put 3 items on your Kog'Maw. And then sometime in stage 3, you just get like 3 forecasts for free. Worst case, you get it a little bit later if you're a little slow on one of them. But are you going to win a lot of games with this comp? No, but you can get a lot of solid, consistent play from Kaisa. In fact, if you wanted to just play one comp the whole patch, I wouldn't be surprised if you could do it with Kaisa. But this build works out really well because both Void and Zon units just complement each other really well. You have the 2 Juggernauts actually the 3 Juggernauts in Cho'Gath. Sorry, you have the 2 Juggernauts in Cho'Gath and Singed. You have the Bruiser in Rift Herald and Mundo. And then you have the snipers in Ziggs, Kaisa, and Kog'Maw. Most of these units are like the marquee units of those traits, so it's kind of like a match made in heaven. Sometimes when 2 traits intersect, it might not work out that well because you might have like a 5 cost and a 1 cost share in traits, and then like you probably don't want to be running the 1 cost in the late game, right? But in this case, the weakest unit is like Kog'Maw, but Kog'Maw is always played with Kaisa, so you pretty much always run Kog'Maw no matter what if you're playing Kaisa. And then the other one is Cho'Gath, but Cho'Gath is a 2 cost unit that gives a big CC, so he's not even that bad if you really think about it. If Cho'Gath had like Vi's ability, for example, then yeah, it'd be pretty bad. But Cho'Gath actually provides some utility to the team, so it just makes it so that this team comp just works out really, 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 really well. If you are able to do it, because normally you do like taking Econ stage 2 with this comp. If you ever get like double Econ or even triple Econ, you can play for the fast 10 Baron build. This one is a really solid build too. It's just very, very expensive because you need to get to level 10. But all you have to do is focus a little bit more on Baron Nashor items over Kaisa. And then once you get your power spike, you pretty much win the game. There aren't too many things that beat Baron. Like you probably need to get like 3-star 4 costs or like some crazy Ixtal cash out something crazy, right? Or like maybe if you're playing a regular team comp, you do like golden egg and you got your golden egg to hatch and then you beat everyone. Like those are kind of the only ways to beat Baron. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed win because nothing in life is guaranteed. You could have 2 3-star 5 costs and probably still lose to someone with 3 of them. But obviously those situations aren't too often. Next 2 builds we're going to look at are both the Ixtal builds. We have the Ixtal Bard and Ixtal Fast 9. So the Fast 9 build has some interesting options with AD and AP. It really depends what items you're getting. I think most people are sticking with the AP build right now, but pretty much it's just Brock plus anything. You don't need to follow any build, you know? Like, honestly, you don't even need to look at the endgame comps. Just pick shiny units, you know? Like, it really doesn't matter what you pick. If the traits match up, they match up. If they don't, they don't. The most important thing is the early game. And honestly, it's really hard to teach that through a guide. You really just need to pick quests you can complete. Like, I know that doesn't help anyone, but honestly, like, that's the answer. You need Ixtal early in most cases. Like, if you're not a pro player, like, only play this comp if you get Ixtal on stage 2-1. There are ways to play this where you get Ixtal in, like, stage 3 if you're on, like, a super win streak. But I'd say for 90% of players, you want to only play Ixtal if you get it right at the start of the game. You could do lose streak and win streak. It really just depends on what boards you're getting that day. If you're getting a lot of upgrades, you definitely want to be win streaking and preserving life. That's one easy way to get to some of the really high Ixtal numbers, but obviously like the quests pay out a little slower, but you are just healthier, so you are able to last a bit longer. The other way is to get like one of the really big lose streak quests. That's kind of how you play this out. But one thing to do when you're playing this way with the Fast 9 is do not take the alternating quest, which is contrary to the Bard one, where you can take the alternating win and lose quest. The reason why you can take it in this one is because you get a lot of 3 stars. So when you take the alternating quest, you can just cycle in and out your strong units. And I'm not saying you guarantee win if you play everyone, but I mean, if you hit your power spike, you should theoretically be stronger than other people. I think that's kind of how they designed Ixtal. They designed the alternating thing to be viable in certain situations, but not every situation. Honestly, it's a pretty cool trait that they cooked up, not gonna lie. But yeah, the one difference between the Fast 9 and the Bard one is that obviously you only do this if you get a reroll augment at the start of the game. You get Bard, you roll down. Ideally, you might have had like a Milio drop from the creep rounds before, and then you get your 3 Ixtal at the start of the game because you rolled down early. You get like Nico, you get Kiana while you're looking for Bard, and then you can play it really early and then get some of the Sun Shards that way. Another thing about this comp is that I believe they buffed Orianna, so it did get a little bit better, but some of the quests did get nerfed, so it's kind of like a hit and miss. I think overall it got like slightly better because I think the Orianna buffs kind of outweigh some of the quests being a little bit harder because I don't think this version took them that often. But pretty much once you unlock Brock, you like auto win the game. It's kind of the same thing with Baron. Like once you hit your win con, it's pretty hard to stop, but it's like a pretty hard win con to hit. Both these comps are like pretty skill intensive, so I don't recommend playing them if you're kind of new to the game. But if you want to have fun, they are pretty fun. Next build up we have is Shadow Owl Kalista. This comp is unlocked by having Veigar in the early game, 2-star with an item. Play him, unlock Warwick, unlock the 2 Shadow Owl buff, have them farm you some souls, and then you get into a board that kind of looks like this, where you kind of drop some of the Shadow Owls. You don't have to drop Shadow Owls, but it definitely does improve your team a bit because there are a lot of like bad Shadow Owl units out there. No offense, but pretty much like most of the Shadow Owl units are damage units. So if they don't have items, they're kind of not that useful, right? So that's kind of why you drop some of them. Like you're not playing Veigar in the late game unless you have 3-star Veigar with his hero augment. What is it called? Like Blade of the Ruin King or something like that. So that's kind of why you want to drop some stuff. Getting a lot of Wardens out there to make Thresh tankier is just much more valuable. Playing legendaries such as Shyvana and Fiddlesticks is just much more valuable. And honestly, like Thresh does enough damage. Like he doesn't need all the souls to do crazy stuff, so he's just good enough on his own. I think the most interesting thing about Thresh is that he could build all sorts of different items. This weird like BT Void Staff Morello build works out pretty well because he just hits a lot of people. So he's really good at holding utility items, but honestly, Thresh can build anything. Like he could build like Titan's Resolve, he could build Edge of Night. Obviously, like you pretty much need Bloodthirster, but even like Jeweled Gauntlet stuff, Handed Justice builds, probably going to work out pretty well for you too. But honestly, like the utility items are the best because you need utility on your team and he just works well with them. And because you have limited items every game, like you need to get them from somewhere. So if you have a good holder for it, just use it and then focus on everyone else. Like you want tank items on Braum and then you want damage items on Kalista. So these are like the 3 units you want to prioritize itemizing. If you do get Ornn, you get a lot of cool stuff that you could use, and you could itemize even more units. So you can itemize Ornn himself with the artifacts because he gets a super buff from it. If you get a best in slot for Thresh or Kalista, obviously you could put it on them too. What is a best in slot? Maybe like Seeker's Arm Guard, Zhonya's Paradox, Wit's End is going to be really good on Thresh. He can honestly use a lot of different artifact items, so if you ever get Ornn while playing this, you pretty much win the game if you get any bit of a good artifact. I'm pretty sure half of them work really well on Thresh. But pretty much for Shadow Isles, you just want to make sure, again, you have the Viego 2 by at least like latest 2-2. Honestly, earlier is better, but latest 2-2, and then just play your game from there. Just slam any items on Viego. He can use a Bloodthirster. He could use like pretty much anything. Like Viego just uses every single item, so that's really nice for him. Transfer them to Gwen later on if you ever get Gwen 2. Use Gwen as an item holder for Thresh because she pretty much uses the same thing as him. And then just slowly go on with your game. But next build up we have is the AD Fast 9. This is a Draven comp, so if you get a Draven drop early, he can just farm you a lot of gold. Get an Econ Augment, combine it with that, and roll at level 7 for Draven 2-star. That should happen around stage 3-5 if you got an Econ Augment early. And then ideally, he farms infinite with items such as like Rage Blade, Kraken Slayer, like the Kindred items you see here, Deathblade. But obviously, the Lucian items can be slammable on him. Like, they're not ideal, but like you slam items to slam items. And then just find any tank in the front row. It really can be anyone. Leona's a good option in the early game. Darius or another defender can be used. Or it could be something like Sion plus another Bruiser. Like, there are a lot of different options you have. Like, maybe like Draven Mundo with Sion for Bruiser is really good combo. It really just depends on what you're hitting that game. Whenever you have like a Fast 9 or Fast 8 build, sometimes they are decently flexible. If I write like AD there, it means it's flexible. So you don't really have like a trait that you just follow along the whole time. So you're going to have to kind of mix and match what you're hitting whenever you are playing it. It does make the comp a little bit more difficult, but honestly, it's not like that hard to play. It's just more difficult than something like Shadow Isles where you like pretty much do the same thing every single game. But yeah, very solid comp. You go 9, you go Kindred, Lucian. They honestly just dominate everyone still. They're like probably the 2 best legendaries, especially if you're AD. And then you throw tank items on like Skarner or Taric, or like literally anyone you get. Skarner's just really good because you don't really need any of the defensive components in this comp. Like, yeah, you need the Negatron for Kraken Slayer, but pretty much you could always get a Stone Plate, and unlocking Skarner is just a really solid value tank for this type of build because you could get him a little bit earlier than other 4-cost tanks, and then he'll buy you time to get to level 9 to get your late game up and running. But yeah, this is one of my favorite comps, to be honest. I love playing around with Draven just because he farms me so much gold. Is really fun to do. Next build up we have is the Noxus build. This is a new comp, and honestly, I think this is one of the strongest comps. It's pretty good for beginners too because it's just linear. You play all the Noxus units, so you just go to your team planner or like copy the team code here, throw in all the Noxus units, and yeah, you don't have to do anything too crazy there. This comp is really good right now because they super duper 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 buff Noxus. Like, I'm talking like Otacon scaling in stage 4 was what it used to be in stage 5, and then Otacon stage 5 scaling is what it used to be in stage 6. And this comp was already, it probably was one of the best mid-game comps. I'm not even going to deny that. If you watched the opener guide or read the opener guide, bunnymuffins.lol/openers, you know that LeBlanc is just a very solid early game unit, one of the best ones, and it's really because she unlocks Noxus, and Noxus just wins all of stage 3. And then now with the Noxus buffs, you're going to win a lot of games in stage 4 and stage 5 as well. So you just pretty much automatically, like, honestly, like, instead of top 3, it might be a top 4, you know? Like, all you need is just a mediocre Noxus start. That's really all you need. Like, to win out, though, you do need, like, LeBlanc 3 or Mel 2. That's pretty much the only decision you have to make when you play this comp. Like, do you have enough copies of LeBlanc to reroll her and go for it? Do you get augments such as Heroic Grab Bag on stage 4? If you do, go for LeBlanc 3, itemize her up, and just be good to go. If not, you could always settle for Mel. I will say that the LeBlanc 3 version is a bit better than just purely focusing on Mel. But again, it's going to be dependent on what's happening in your game. But yeah, this comp is just very good. If you get any of the Noxus augments, it's going to be good. If you get any Noxus emblems, it's really, really good. This is probably like one of the best conditions to get for this, especially since this emblem is craftable. Because you know how some games you randomly get like a spatula for some reason, and then you're like, I don't know what comp to go. Like, this is going to be one of the comps to go for. The one issue you have to be careful, though, about the LeBlanc 3 is that you don't want to be rolling for her at level 7. Because you may have noticed I have leveling pattern over here, fast 8, fast 9. The reason why is because you need to play 7 Noxus. That's the whole power of this comp. 7 Noxus. Like, none of the units matter that much, I'm gonna be honest, but 7 Noxus matters. That's what's gonna win you all of stage 4, and 5 Noxus is gonna win you all of stage 3. So that's why I recommend getting some reroll augment or like champion duplicators or just skipping LeBlanc entirely, because unless you get a lot of copies of her for free, it's going to be hard to 3-star her, because you're going to be rolling for her on level 8. The odds are just going to be less for 3-cost units. So it is going to be a little bit more difficult. But again, like, you go level 8 for the 7 Noxus, not for any other reason. So it's really just 7 Noxus plus Kabuko. Kabuko is going to be unlocked through Scion, LeBlanc, whatever other invokers you're playing, and like whatever your early game is. Like, you could play Rumble as a Yordle to pair with Darius for Defender. Lots of different ways to unlock Kabuko and Yuumi. So if we look down here, 2-star Anivia or whatever invoker you're playing, 2-star Scion, you're at 4 stars, 1-star LeBlanc, and then 1 other Yordle, like 1-star Rumble or whatever, you're going to have enough to unlock Kabuko. It's not like that hard to unlock, but it is something to kind of pay attention to during stage 3. And then again, you just buy all the Noxus units and call it a day. In terms of like what to build, like just standard AP build is fine on LeBlanc, same for Mel. Mel really likes Adaptive Helm. It's just really good on her because of the way her ability works. And then for frontline, like Swain really likes Protector's Vow. Swain actually got nerfed a bit, but because Noxus got buffed so much, it doesn't even matter. The only weird part about playing Swain is that you absolutely need at least a 1-star Swain, but Swain also is just the most contested unit in the game. So there are some situations where you get Swain denied, where everyone's rolling for him, like everyone's got like 2 copies of him, and then there are just no more copies left for you. Like, it does happen, but for items for him, if you do get him, Protector's Vow, the best one, Spirit Visage, like any mana item is good for him, like Adaptive Helm is really good too. What I like to do is build Adaptive Helm for my Swain and then transfer them over onto Mel later. But also, like, he's decent at holding like utility items. He can honestly hold Sunfire or Morello just because he hits a lot of units. And pretty much every team needs anti-heal, and he is just like one of those units who isn't that good with items, so that makes him a great candidate for holding utility items. Some of you may be wondering like why he isn't the best like item holder. It's because he's just not that tanky. His ability allows him to stun people, but if you compare him to something like Braum, which just makes him like super beefy, like if you beef up a Braum, he's just never gonna die. If you beef up a Swain, his ability doesn't help him, so you don't really get good effects from itemizing him. But the good news is that you could itemize him with different items. So for example, like utility items are going to be good on Swain, and obviously mana is going to be good too, just so he casts a bit more. But yeah, game plan here, strong opener, play around LeBlanc, 3 Noxus, get into 5 Noxus, get into 7 Noxus, and then try to go for LeBlanc 3 or for Mel 2. That's really all there is. It's a pretty easy comp to play, and honestly, like, it plays itself. Like, again, the units don't matter as much as you think because Otacon's going to be killing pretty much everything for you. Next build up we have is going to be Gangplank Slayers. Still solid, viable comp. It is tricky. You just have to be careful about your Gangplank. If you're running into a lot of T-Hexes, which you will be, you just don't want them to get bopped randomly, so that's really the only thing you need to look out for. But yeah, this is just a standard Slayer build. You only play this if you get a lot of Gangplanks, or if you get like the Bilgewater early, and then you get a lot of copies of Gangplank from your Bilgewater shops, because you just are able to go fast 8, play the same Bel'Veth board as we saw before, but you just have a 3-star Gangplank, which is just an absolute monster. And you pretty much get it for free just from playing Bilgewater. Like, that's the only reason to play this. Bel'Veth's the same, Rift Herald's the same. You still need the Void activated in order to unlock the Rift Herald. So early game, that's going to be Rek'Sai plus someone else. And Rek'Sai luckily works well with Gangplank because they're both Vanquishers. And that's going to enable Gangplank to get a lot more value in the early game. But this comp really shines also when you get artifact items. Artifacts are really good on Gangplank because he's the guy you're focusing on, so you want to concentrate power on him. So if you do get Portable Forge, it is an option for him. Honestly, so many of them work on him. Like, we'd have to go down like a long list to name all of them that work. I actually have like a decent list down here. But honestly, even more than this works. Like, that's the crazy part about it. But yeah, Gangplank's good. Just make sure you have a QSS on him. If not, he doesn't get enough uptime. And after that, you just want to build crit items. Like Hand of Justice is really good because it gives crit and healing, which is really useful for him. And because he's a Vanquisher, you don't need to build Infinity Edge. So that's why this comp works out really well. But it is just a little situational compared to the other Slayer build. Next build up we have is Veigar Yordles. If you get 2 rods, you play this. That's if you get Deadlier Caps, if you get like, what's that augment they buffed recently? The one that gives you a rod and a chain vest. That could be a way to play this comp. If you take one of those random item augments, such as like gain 2 random components at the start of the game or whatever it's called. I forget the name of it. I only know the effects. I don't know all the names sometimes. But pretty much if you get rods from random items or like just from directly from a augment, that's your sign to play Veigar. After you do that, you just play all the Yordle units. 8 Yordle honestly is playable, but you do want to drop down a bit later just to play some of the other units. But you definitely can play 8 Yordle like pretty much the whole game and not feel too bad about it. I just like dropping down a little bit later to play some of the other utility units. Like Shyvana's just really good to play, Swain's good to play. I find that Wukong provides a little bit more tankiness value compared to some of the other options you have, so that's kind of why I like dropping down to this. But if you're playing 8 Yordle, like honestly that works too in like 90% of your games. But sometimes I like showing a couple of different options, and this is going to be one of those situations. But primary carry, going to be Veigar, secondary, going to be Ziggs, primary tank, going to be Wukong. If it's not Wukong, it could be either Kennen or Kabuko, whoever you get upgraded faster. And because 8 Yordle gives you a lot of duplicators and stuff, getting Kennen 3 or Kabuko 3 definitely is easy to do. And you also get a lot of gold as well. So pretty much what you do is you get them 3-star, then you can drop down, or you could choose to just keep them there and play it the whole game. Honestly, the difference is like minuscule, but I think dropping down is like slightly better. It depends how long the game goes to. Like if the game goes super long, yeah, you want to drop down because the econ you get from 8 Yordle doesn't really do that much in the super late game. But if the game ends early, like yeah, you're going to have 8 Yordle out there, right? But yeah, Veigar is pretty much just mana item plus hat. Third item doesn't matter that much. Don't stress too much about it. And then Ziggs is just going to be your utility holder. That's pretty much all there is to it. Pretty easy comp to play. It's just very, 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 very situational because you need the 2 Rabadon's death caps. Next one up we have is Yunara Flex. Like this comp is weaker. I'm not going to deny that. This used to be like high up in the A tier. Now it's at the bottom of the A tier. But again, if you have a Rage Blade, it's still viable, and like you could play a lot of different comps with Yunara. You could play Ionia, Freljord, you could go into Ryze as well. There are honestly so many different things you can do, and if you get Ionia start, like what are you gonna do? Not play Yunara? Like come on. Like Ionia start's still very solid to play with. The nerfs weren't like that big, it was just like a small nerf. And since we've been playing this build pretty much every single patch since the set came out, like it's pretty straightforward to play. Like all you do is just fast 8, play around Wukong and Yunara. Depending on what version you're playing, like you can add in some other units. Late game cap is going to be with Kindred, sometimes Set, sometimes something else. And then you just play like 3 or 5 Ionia, click all the purple and yellow units, and that's pretty much going to be your game. Like it's very straightforward to play. So that's why this comp is good and still in the A tier, just because it's a solid option to kind of keep in your back pocket. For the B tier, yeah, Demacia just a bit weaker now, like Freljord, Seraphine. Like, yeah, all the B tiers, they're just much weaker right now. You don't want to be playing them that much just because we do have a pretty sizable list in the S and A tier. But if you get like a super start for one of these, then yeah, go for them. Like if you get like 10 Sonas at the start of the game, like what are you going to do? Not go Sona reroll? It's still viable. Warwick Flex, still okay. Again, I thought this comp would be a bit stronger, but it's just a lot more situational now, just because some of the other comps are just a bit better right now and are pretty good against it. But yeah, the B tier is definitely still viable. But pretty much you want to be playing T-Hex as much as possible. Like, I know it sucks. I know some people hate T-Hex. I'm one of those people. Like, I did not like T-Hex before. It is a new T-Hex, though. Like, this one's more single target focus rather than AoE blow up your backlines. So that does make it a little bit different. I don't know. I just don't really like the Piltover trait. I don't know why. Like, it just feels weird to me to play. It's not because I, like, don't like the units or anything. Like, I think T-Hex is cool himself, but I just don't like the path to get to him. But obviously, I am going to be playing it because it's the best comp in this patch right now. So yeah, play T-Hex as much as possible. If you get double trouble, play Malzahar. If not, go for some of the A tiers depending on what your opener is. Speaking of openers, I will be doing the opener guide in the next few days. So for all the people that enjoyed that, it will be coming out again. I'll be doing it at least once a patch. So definitely look out for that if you have not seen the first one. A lot of people found it helpful. I was actually kind of surprised. I didn't think it would be that popular, but apparently it is. So I will keep making them. But yeah, that's going to be it from me today. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.